Choosing shadow colors doesn't have to be confusing. Let's simplify it. I will show an easy way to decide between warm and cool shadows, so your paintings feel natural and full of life. Before I jump into this video tutorial, I highly recommend watching this video on how to mix warm and cool shadows. Now we learned how to do warm shadows and cool shadows. Let's apply in a painting so we can, you don't have to do this, but I'm gonna do it. It's just like trying to create this big sunlight. I'll just do one here. So on the left hand side, we'll be doing the warm shadow. On the right hand side, we will do the cool shadow. So as you know, the first one is, so I want to create this really nice bright light coming from the sun. So you could use yellow ochre or orange, it's up to you. But I'll use yellow ochre and I'll just go and create this sun like that. And you can see that I'm using a lot of water in it, because it's gonna get super pale or it will get super light. And that's how watercolor works. It goes duller or lighter as you paint. But as it comes to the foreground, I'm going to increase the pigment consistency with less water in my brush. And you can see that I'm increasing the pigment consistency. And as it comes close to me, I'll use a little bit of burnt sienna. And I'll use a little bit of burnt amber. So you're kind of creating a gradient from light to dark. And that's what we're doing. And again, since it's wet on wet, you can go and increase the pigment consistency too. And I'll do the same thing for yellow ochre if I want. I can just go and do that as well. And again, I'll just put a horizon there and I'll just stop it here. And maybe I'll just increase a little bit in the foreground and I'll just stop it here. And I'm gonna dry it, then we can go and add the second wash. Okay, now let's do the second wash. So the second wash is mostly the clouds. I'm just going to go around our sun, as per se. This is a bigger sun. It's just a way of expressing something creative. So not something boring, you know, something really fun to do. And that's just the most important thing when we're painting. So you can see that I'm only using yellow ochre for this. So this wash is, I'm going to be using a lot on wet for this principle. And that's why I'm going around the sun like that. I went around it, it's fine. And I'll just stop where the horizon is. So now our wash is wet around the sun. What we can do is we can add some wet on dry. So this is a beautiful thing about it. So what we can do is I'll add a couple of burnt sienna. Creating some sun, creating some cloud, some darker clouds at the top. And I think that's good. And at the bottom here, I'll just create some burnt sienna here. And I'll make some trees and let it blend and create something like that. And same thing here as well. And I'll also make some mountains. And I'll make some burnt sienna as something is popping here like that. And again, since it's wet on wet, we can also introduce actually let's introduce a little bit of orange as well. And I'm going to introduce a little bit of sepia. So I'm introducing sepia because I want to make sure the light is hitting the trees which is in the midground. And whatever we are doing now, it will go super dark. And you wouldn't believe it, but it will. And I'm using burnt amber and sepia like that. So there's kind of like some darker areas around it. So now what I'm going to do is, since this is a little bit wet, and let it dry for a bit, because I'm going to put a tree exactly in the middle, and I want to create this really nice warm shadows. But I'll let it dry for a bit, so then we can do that. Okay, now I dried a bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make a tree, which is kind of sitting here. And again, when you paint tree, don't even think about being neat, being like super accurate or something like that. So this is kind of like the first wash. So what I usually do is I try to create the shape of the tree, and I'm going to have a little bit of lot of pigment at the top, and maybe some lighter pigment. So the lighter pigment kind of goes back, so that's the reason I'm doing this. And now I have the shape. Now what I could do is I could create the next wash of it. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use burnt sienna for it. And you will see in a second, it's the slow build up. It's a slow process, but it's worth it. But here, I'll just leave it as it is, because there is some trees I have to go back at the back, so I'm just leaving it as it is. So now what I'm going to do is you can either use sepia or burnt amber. So you could use burnt amber with a little bit of red in it, and that also gives a little bit of a darker tone as well. So let's use that, and let's create some leaves here and there. And look at that, as soon as we added this darker tone, things started appearing kind of like a three-dimensional in our tree. And you can see that we almost did our second wash. So on top of it, if you want more darker, you can also introduce a couple of sepia here and there. So now we kind of created it. So I'm going to take sepia or burnt amber. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. And let's make some trunks. And again, I'm just painting this from my head. I painted a couple of trees. So again, I think about, whenever I paint trunks, I think about Y shape. Y and V shapes, and that's what I try to do. And let's break the symmetry. Don't make your trees symmetrical. So this is kind of like a little bit of asymmetry. As soon as we add asymmetry, you could see that there's a little bit of shape happening. And the one thing I noticed, I didn't like it. This guy looks a little bit weak, and the design is not that great. So I'm just adding a couple of this things which goes behind the tree. So now we have the light and source. So one thing that's missing is just the shadow. For the shadow, the same thing what we did with the balls, with the sphere, and it's going to be darker here, and it's going to go like that, and it's going to go like that, and it's going to go like that, and it's going to go like that. Again, I'm not worried about the shape being right or anything like that. I'll just do that. And again, we could do a couple of this thing coming towards us. Even these guys. When I'm adding the shadow, I'm also thinking about the perspective as well. And as it comes to the foreground, it gets softer. So what do? You put some water and take whatever you want to do and just blend this guy's ear. And there's a couple of things here. I'll just bring it here. Maybe I'll just put one, and maybe increase the pigment consistency with what I have here. And there you go, we kind of created everything with warm shadows. Okay, now we learned how to do a warm tone. Now let's do a cool tone. So for the cool tones, for the light moon wash, I'll use maybe cerulean blue. Cerulean blue works. You could use cobalt blue for this, but I personally use cerulean blue. That's one of my favorite color to use. And I remember when I was teaching a class, one time I was doing a workshop, and I was pronouncing cerulean blue, and people thought that I'm saying sodium blue. It's a cerulean blue, and I'll put the link. And you also get, I also put like this, so this is where the transition gonna happen, so that's why I'm kind of making it a little bit lighter. But as it goes down, it's going to get, the consistency get a little bit more. So we kind of create this transition. Okay, let's put cobalt blue at the bottom. It's kind of like you're painting water in a way, but this is cobalt blue. The same thing what we're doing there. Let's do another wash. Let's use what is it called? French ultramarine blue. And you can see that even though this is kind of like forest, there's going to be a tree, yet it kind of looks like water. So I'm going to dry it, and we'll come back and we'll do the same thing what we did before. So I dried up my wash. Okay, let's what I'm going to do is around the moon, okay, I'm just, this time I'm taking a little bit slow on my stroke. This one I was a little bit careful. You can see the sun kind of have a jaggedy edge. Even though I'm doing this for a demo, sometimes, you know, you get like OCD being an artist. You want everything have to be perfect. But when painting in watercolors, there's one thing I learned is you shouldn't be perfect. You just let go and paint. And that's how you improve, and that's how you build your faith and confidence in watercolors. Or any kind of painting you do. But you can see that I only use cerulean blue. So this wash is just to to create a wash. So we kind of like put some colors. So now I'm going to increase a couple of colors here and there to show that there's some clouds here. Nothing fancy. Maybe we can just put some atmospheric perspective. The clouds are coming in, and there's a little bit of cloud at the bottom. So I'm going to increase the pigment consistency at the top, like that. And I'm using French ultramarine blue for this. And at the bottom, I'm going to be using a little bit of cobalt blue. This gets a little bit lighter. And at the bottom, at horizon, I'll just introduce a little bit of cobalt blue. And what we could do is we kind of create this little bit of trees, like what we created on the other side. There's a mountain there, and there's also this on the tree here. It kind of makes sense. The one thing I noticed is this becomes super white. So what we could do is put a little bit of blue in there, cerulean blue. That's the one thing about watercolors is it goes pale. So we have to keep on thinking about it because I want a little bit of glow in it. So before adding the tree, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add dry the paper, and we can come back and put a tree and add the shadows, and that's it. now I dried it, and let's go and add the tree. So it's the same thing. What we're going to do is you could use cerulean blue or cobalt blue, it's up to you, or you can have a mix of both. And one thing I told in the beginning that when you paint, the first painting, it's kind of like a warm-up painting. And once you get practice a little bit, once you're warmed up, your brush strokes get really nice, and even the strokes get really nice. And that's why I feel like when I paint this, I feel like this one, it feels more naturally. When I painted this one, I was a little bit stiff. Now I'm a little bit loose. This is another thing I tell my students, whenever you paint, do some small painting before you do the big painting. So that way, you're kind of like doing warming up. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? You don't go and lift weights. Just go and, like, squat something, 200 pounds. So you warm up, you stretch, and you slowly warm up your body, stretch, then you go and squat. It's the exact same thing here as well. That's the exact same thing what we did here, but it came out pretty nice. So you can see the principle we are applying. We are just increasing the pigment consistency. The one thing about doing this exercise is you can only go darker to a certain extent, and you can't go any darker after that, because that's how watercolor works, and because of the transparency. And you can see that I like this tree better than that one, because I was able to break the shape a little bit better, because I want some light trees behind it. So I'm just adding it like that. And you can see that we kind of created it, and it's not that much darker because, as I said, because of the transparency. If I have Pion's gray, it'll go darker. So as something, the Pion's gray, I'm going to show you how Pion's gray looks like. This is neutral tint, and I'll put a little bit of cerulean blue in it, and this is how the Pion's gray looks like. So this is a cool color, and you can see that how darker it gets. So it gives another darker value on top of it. So play with it, and this would be a good exercise to learn warm and cool colors. So now I'm going to add the trunk. Might as well use the neutral, the Pion's gray from here. And again, when you do it, I'll try to copy the exact same thing. And you can see that this tree, our stroke is better. We kind of warmed up pretty good, and we kind of created this asymmetry. And even our strokes are a little bit confident, and that's how I like to paint too. I'll put one more. And here, what I will do is I'll add a couple of this, I don't know what you call bushes, whatever you want to call. Some irregular strokes like that. So it kind of gives a little bit of mid-ground. So the only one thing painting is, you guessed it, just adding the shadows. When adding the shadows, make sure you add like the darker part first. And again, when you do it, think about perspective 2. And again, I want to soften it in the foreground. So I'll take clean water. I'll just rub it and keep some water here. So whenever I have a stroke there, it disappears and soften it by itself. And I'll put some cobalt blue here and French ultramarine blue. So it's darker, so it's kind of showing that. And now let's add the other stuff. And again, I'm thinking about perspective, and I'll add a couple like that. And now I'll add the trees like that, and I'll also add the tree shadow which is coming from this side. And actually, I like the cool shadows better than the warm shadow. As I said, I warmed up quite a bit, so we are able to create something really nice. And you can see the difference between warm and cool shadows. And you can see the colors we used for the warm colors and the colors we used for cool colors. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any uploads every Saturday. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep creating, and I'll see you next week.